Igor Stravinsky has said, "Choreography, as I conceive it, must realize its own form, one independent of the musical form, though measured to the musical unit. Its construction will be based on whatever correspondences the choreographer may invent, but it must not seek merely to duplicate the line and beat of the music." Stravinsky's statement expresses an aesthetic preference for dance that, while connected in some way to the music, does not seem to duplicate the music's patterns pedantically. In another video, I showed how Balanchine actually did seem to duplicate the line and beat of the music in the opening of the ballerina variation of Tschaikovsky Pas de Deux. However, that level of matching between music and dance characterized only the first few measures. Balanchine's choreographies do not tend to adhere to fixed ways of relating movement to music. In other words, if in a Balanchine ballet, a dancer seems to go up when a melody goes up and down when the melody goes down, that type of correspondence is unlikely to continue for very long, because that would get boring. In this video, I show you another side of this ballerina variation, Variation 2 from Tchaikovsky Pas de Deux. In the second half of the variation, Balanchine seems to take a suggestion from the way that the music is structured to craft an intricate complement to the simple patterns of the music. Before we talk too much about the details of this variation, let's watch it in its entirety. Did you happen to notice that the music is easily counted in 2s, 4s, 8s, and 16s? Duple groupings, or groups of 2, are found at almost every level of this music structure. The musical score shows a meter signature of 2/4, which tells us that there are 2 quarter beats per measure, 1, 2, 1, 2. Each of those beats can be divided again by 2, 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and, as we see in the accompaniment pattern. And those half beats, the eighth notes, can be divided further by 2, 1 and a 2 and a 1 and a 2 and a, as we see in the melody's rhythm. 16th notes are the fastest rhythms in the variation. At higher levels, each measure groups into phrase segments of 2 measures or bars and 4. The entire variation is made up of 8-bar phrases and 16-bar periods. At the next higher level, however, the 16-bar periods do not group into 32. Rather, the variation's highest level of form has 3 groups of 16 in an A, B, A' pattern to make 48 total measures in the piece. That is, with a little adjustment, because there is a 2-measure prefix that is a simple accompaniment pattern, and, more significantly, there is a phrase overlap at measure 42, which I discuss in the other video on Tchaikovsky Pas de Deux. The overlap causes there to be only 15 measures in the A' section. However, if we normalize or imagine undoing the phrase overlap, then we can conceptualize the section as being 16 measures long. Let's watch the variation again. This time I will be narrating the measure counts. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Shown another way, the variation creates a straight line of duple groupings or divisions at every level of its structure. That is, until the highest level, which takes a turn to group triply. In the first half of the variation, the dance follows the music's patterns closely. The close correspondences include the way that the choreography groups into 2s, 4s, and 8s, like the music. But then, right at the midpoint of the variation, at measure 27, the dancer begins a 3-count step, piqué close fifth entre trois, that is performed 4 times. 1, 2, 3, 2, 2, 3, 3, 2, 3, 4, 2, 3. And near the end, there is a 5-count step performed 4 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 2, 2, 3, 4, 5, 3, 2, 3, 4, 5, 4, 2, 3, 4, 5, and end. These dance phrases do not align with the music. So what is going on here? These 3 and 5 count steps are not merely fun musical challenges designed to showcase the ballerina's sophisticated musicality. They are also indicative of a new background structure that is being expressed through dance steps. This new structure in the second half of the variation is one that divides spans regularly by 2. Using this diagram again, we can see how the 48 normalized measures of the variation are divided into 2 24-measure halves of the choreography. In the first half, the choreographic structure divides into 3 phrases of 8 measures each. Below that level, the choreography divides by 2, just like the music. In the second half, the choreographic structure continues to divide by 2 from the top until the lowest level, where the 3-count step, which takes 1.5 measures, divides into 3 quarter pulses or quarter note beats. The diagram shows how the structure of the second half of the choreography can be seen as a perfect complement to the structure of the music. And with the 2 halves together, the choreography realizes its own form, one independent of the musical form, though measured to the musical unit. What makes this structure especially fascinating as it unfolds in time is that the dance phrases are designed to be unaligned with musical phrases in the second half of the variation. For example, since each 3-count step takes 1.5 measures of music, the dance units group at 1.5, 3, and 6 measures, while the music continues to feature groups of 2, 4, and 8 measures. Because these dance phrases are unaligned with the musical phrases, when the music has a significant moment at the return of the opening melody at measure 35, the dancer is in the middle of her backward hops. Most classical ballet variations would feature a new step combination at this point, but Balanchine's dancer continues hopping right over the beginning of the musical reprise. If the dancer turns and runs toward the upstage left corner just at the moment when the musical reprise begins, then the structure of the variation is altered, realigning musical and dance phrases and causing the choreography to become a 3-part structure like the music instead of the 2-part structure Balanchine seems to have intended. 2 other features underscore the 2-part structure of the choreography. First, the use of stage space divides the variation into 2 parts. In the first half of the variation, the dancer stays mostly in the center. Starting at the midpoint, however, with the 3-count steps, the dancer begins to travel on the diagonal between upstage left and downstage right. She continues to dance along this same diagonal for the remainder of the variation. Second, The types of steps used in the variation seem to change at the midpoint. In the first half, the dancer mostly performs steps that move from 2 feet to 1, the sissons and relevés, or 2 feet to 2, sous and échappés. In the second half, she primarily steps on 1 foot at a time, in piqués and hops. So there are 2 clear halves to the choreographic structure, and the beginning of the second half can also be divided in 2. But the final quarter of the choreography presents a special challenge. The phrase overlap at measure 42 causes there to be only 11 actual measures to work with, not 12. If Balanchine had wished to continue dividing by 2, as he did in the previous 12 measures, then he would have had to create 2 units of 5.5 measures each. Now, 11-count step combinations are not unheard of in Balanchine's choreography, but in this case, he chose a different solution. What we see is that the final measure is used for the final pose. That leaves 10 measures, or 20 counts, to be divided into almost 4 iterations of a 5-count step. The 4th iteration dissolves into chaîné turns. The resulting structure continues the pattern of duple divisions, albeit approximately. The 23 measures are divided into 12 and 11, and these are further divided into approximate halves. So, as the choreography unfolds in time, building step groups of 2 beats, 2 measures, 4 measures, and 8 measures up to the phrase level, the dance aligns closely with the music in the first half of the variation. Then, at measure 27, the 3-count steps initiate a different structure. The choreography departs from the structure of the music and realizes its own form. In 2003, Violette, Verdy, and Conrad Ludlow were interviewed about the roles they originated in this ballet. They noted that after Ludlow's premiere, male dancers frequently substituted the virtuosic steps in Variation 1, the male solo, with other steps that would showcase their own unique strengths. Balanchine saw this and allowed it. In contrast, Verdy said, female dancers did not substitute steps in Variation 2, the ballerina solo. In Verdy's words, the variation was, quote, much more set choreographically, end quote. One explanation for the different performing traditions may lie in the different ways that the choreographic structures relate to the musical structures. In the male variation, musical phrases and step combinations begin and end together, as they do in the first half of the ballerina variation. Balanchine used the framework set by the music for the framework of his choreography. This is the traditional way that music is used in ballet, as exemplified by the choreographies of Marius Petipa. This also makes it easy for dancers to substitute steps. In the ballerina variation, however, the music-dance relationships are much more intricate, especially in the second half. Replacing the steps in this variation would likely alter the structure of the choreography and obscure the choreomusical style of this piece. As it stands, this variation shows how dance can offer a structural complement to music because music and dance can communicate with each other in musical terms. To borrow Stravinsky's words again, I do not see how one can be a choreographer unless, like Balanchine, one is a musician first.